Ladies and gentlemen, grab your gloves and get your compost ready. Stepping into the ring is the perennial powerhouse, the sultan of soil, the beast of the beds, where permaculture reigns, food grows wild, community roots run deep, and yes, the garden puns hit hard. Freedom starts in the soil. This is the Guerrilla Gardening Show.
Welcome back to the Guerrilla Gardening Show. My name is Mike with Mike's in the Garden, back with Sam from Central Florida Abundance. What's happening, Sam?
What's going on, y'all? What's going on, Mike? Trying to stay cool out here. It's December and it's cold for us Floridians. You know, it drops into the 40s at night. That's pretty rough for us. So I'm staying bundled up.
I've got sweatpants
But
on today. It's probably the first time, but I've been rocking the shorts on my morning walks. Real quick before we get into this episode, and it's going to be a good one. Um, if you're watching, make sure you like and subscribe to Sam's channel or Mike's in the Garden, and also comment down below what you think of this episode or any of these episodes you're watching, and also engage if you have something we can help you with, a project, a plant, something you want some more knowledge or insight on, reach out to
leave
us.
those questions. Leave those questions down below. You
That's
know,
it.
we're pretty good at answering our comments.
Yeah.
So you might get an answer there in the comments, or maybe, if your questions require an in-depth enough answer, we may do an entire episode, answering your question or a couple questions.
Yeah, for sure. So what are we talking about today, Sam?
So today we're going to talk about onions. And it is December here in Florida, in Central Florida. And that is our onion planting season. You can really plant, mid-November to mid-December, and expect like late, early to late April harvest, depending on what kind of variety onions you're growing. And I just planted my onions last week, and so this is the onion field. You see this here?
I do.
We're going to take it full screen. So there's two beds here, and we're going to play through, get you some close-ups. But onions need their space, and they're one of the plants that does have some preferences on what they grow around. And so, if you've ever wanted to grow onions, if you're here in Central Florida, this is going to be a great video. We're going to talk a lot about how I plant my onions. I've grown onions out for several years now, and it's always wonderful, but you can never grow enough, because you can only do it really the one time of the year. And so, we planted out, well, I think there's about 70 in this patch,
Wow.
between this bed over here and then the other bed here, and then the pathway down the middle.
So
But
this isn't direct sow. You've seed started them and now you're transplanting the starts.
so that's a good question. So I like to buy starts. I don't like to
Okay.
go through the trouble of starting them. They are very care intensive.
Okay.
And, to get them, you can see here that we're pretty close up. These are the sets pretty much as I planted them. Um, they're going to get much bigger. But this is what they look like. I really wish I should have recorded one of them before I did planted it at least, because a thing to note is, they're going to come bare root when you order them like this. And, that is a great way to transplant them. You want to make sure they stay hydrated until they go in the ground. But when you put them in the ground, you're going to make sure that those roots are spread out through the soil. There's going to be a few roots on the bottom of these onion sets here. If we carry this on, I'll look at the bottom of it, and you can't see the root in the ground, but at the bottom of this little stalk, there's a, oh, there's my fingers. at the bottom of this little stalk, you're going to see a small little bulb. And, it's going to look like a little tiny onion. And then at the bottom of that, there's going to be a few short roots. And you just want to make sure you loosen up the soil. That's what I've done here. Um, this bed, all the soils in my bed stay pretty loose. I don't till them. I Most of them did get like an initial till, but that was several seasons ago. And they just stay mulched. And so I'll loosen up the soil just around the where I'm going to put the onion in, make a hole big enough that I can spread all the roots out. And then when you go for depth, you can see right here uh, where like the bottom leaves are, that's the oldest leaf scar there. And the bulb really, if you can see it on some of these, we'll see it. You can kind of see the top of the bulb poking out of the ground. And that's really how you want to plant them. Just the tip of that bulb, peeking out of the soil and everything else buried. You can see the old leaf scars there.
Mm.
And I like to keep all my beds mulched. You can see all the small debris and litter here. But, that stuff's going to break down. Plants are going to want to grow. And you can kind of see, all of these little sprouts
Yeah.
around the onion. And so that's an intentional crop. Uh, I like to grow loose leaf lettuce and arugula between my onions and garlic so that they fill that space where, other weeds are going to want to grow because the onions, they're not going to cover, all the ground. Plenty of things will be able to grow up between them. Um, but it's important that you don't have things growing next to them that have root systems that can interfere with the bulb production. If you have real hard, woody roots, tough roots, they can interfere with the production of the plant. The lettuces, they all have very small, fibrous, surface level roots. Oh, we're flying now. Let's see. What speed do we get? Okay. I really wanted to show this onion. Yeah, this one you can almost see the bulb. You see that?
Yeah.
And then here's more of these lettuces. You can see some pigeon pea leaves that have been chopped and dropped into this
Hmm.
bed. This is actually this mulch here is all from that wood chipper I was talking about in one of the
Wow.
last episodes.
Yeah.
Chipped up a bunch of moringa and pigeon peas. Um, and I mean it turned out real nice.
So
Covered the
I
soil.
forget if you just said this, Sam. You broadcasted these lettuce seeds and arugula seeds?
Yeah, I don't direct sow lettuce. Um, just because yeah, it's broadcasted. I try to direct it. If we zoom out here, so you can see, I show a little bit later, there's 12 inches in between the onions.
Okay.
And so I focused the, broadcasting in between those rows, but they kind of end up everywhere. But I guess what helps, you know, since I don't put them in the soil, the small little mulch particles, the lettuce seeds are very small, like very, very small. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm sure, yeah, you're familiar. And if you guys haven't seen it, if you've ever seen kale or broccoli seeds, they're very
Picture a
tiny.
gumball machine and then the tiniest, I'm trying to like could fit on a pinhead, basically.
Yeah. So, they can fit down in between those mulch particles real easy. Um, and then you just kind of water them in. And this is maybe 7 days after I planted them
Okay.
that this video was recorded. So,
So I see the sprinkler. up in the side there. So is this you just kind of watering every day until they're somewhat established, or what's your watering schedule?
That's a great question. So you can see in this shot that I've got the on the left up here, that's one of my main production beds that's in full production right now. So this area, that sprinkler waters both of these blocks, and the blocks are separated by this vetiver grass here. Before I planted this, the onions and the lettuce, I was watering this for about 30 minutes every morning around like 4 or 5 a.m. And it's on a timer, so I don't go out there. It just runs. Um, but since I've done the seeds, until the lettuce is established, until the onions are established in there, um, I'm watering a second time around noon to 2 p.m.
Okay.
For another like 20 minutes. And that just kind of guarantees that it stays, damp throughout the day. Even in the winter, we do have a lot of issues with fungal things due to the humidity. And so, you don't want to water too much, especially when your systems are as dense as mine get. There's not always the best airflow in between the leaves, but all of that canopy keeps the soil very moist. The sun is not really cooking any of the soil around here. Um, and so I don't have to water as much. But yeah, and so these onions, actually, this is, I know what's about to happen. So I was talking about how, you don't want to plant root systems around your onions that can interfere with them. One plant that uh, reportedly does really poorly with onions is any type of pea or bean, the
Hmm.
legumes. And I'm about to find out. I mean, I've never noticed issues with pigeon peas. They're legumes.
Hmm.
But this year I definitely have some pigeon peas bordering this field of onions.
Okay.
So we'll see. But there's also, I had cowpeas as a cover crop this summer, and they got ahead of me. They reseeded. So now they're popping back up now that I'm watering this bed. So that's one thing that I'm just pulling, pretty much every day. And I know it's one of those things that right now it's very easy. I can pull them. I'll go out there for 15, 20 minutes every day, pick up some peas, maybe some grasses that are popping up. Uh, and then they won't be there, it'll once the lettuce and the onions get established. So this onion and all the ones we've seen before are uh they're Texas 1015 sweet onions. And
Okay.
that's an heirloom variety. Um, I get my onions from uh growhaas.com. If y'all have ever seen Haas Tools, um, that website sells great seeds, plant starts, and they're based out of Georgia, so it's not too far. Um, but this onion, and about half of them, actually, I think it's about a third, uh, are so red, I think Creole red onions.
Hmm.
And so that this will be my first year growing these out. But I'm pretty excited for these because I love pickling some onions, throwing some red onions fresh on a salad. But
Now, do you have a row of red and a row of sweet, or do you have, every other
so
red, sweet? How do you kind of have these set up here?
if I zoom out a little bit, you'll be able to see.
Okay. Looks like alternating.
Yeah, and if I could get a shot of the whole bed. So in I talked earlier about well, they're in this shop. You can hardly see them with that bright mulch.
Yeah.
So this is the onions are taking up one whole block of the garden, And inside this block, there's two beds, and each bed is like 3.5 feet wide. And so in each bed, I've got 3 rows of, I think one of them has 12 and one of them has 11. Uh, so each row, you can kind of see it here. So on the right side here, here's a row. And then in the middle, here's a row. And then on the left, here's a row going down. And so the way I did it is, I kept the rows the same, but then I split them halfway. So half the bed is white on the sides and then red down the middle. But then
Okay.
halfway down the bed, it flops and then it goes red on the sides and white down the middle.
Okay.
And on the other bed, I did that same layout, but I flipped the whole thing. And so that basically guarantees that I have both onions growing in the same conditions, everywhere. There's going to be red onions in the middle of the rows, and there's going to be white onions in the middle of the rows. There's going to be red onions in the far corner of the bed. There's going to be white onions in the other far corner of the bed. So that helps me monitor their progress through the season. I can, you know, see if it's like if something's performing better or worse than expected. I can compare it to the other plants and usually deduce what's going on with it, whether it's, an area of the garden that's having a problem, where, maybe it's I'm really trying to see how the reds compare to the whites, because the whites have done so well with such little maintenance that if the reds can do the same under the same conditions, then that's probably going to be another every year onion for me.
Okay. I
I'll carry
grew
this on.
some sweet onions and they were pretty simple. I did grow them from seed, used a good chunk of you know, starter soil and um I think I did pull them a little too early. So are these 90 days roughly? Is that what we're
Plants don't have a calendar.
okay?
Um, so I think the whites are like 110 days, and then the reds might be like 120. But
Okay.
really, I don't pay attention to that at all. The onions will tell you when they're ready. So when those tops, those green tops, they're going to get big, real thick, full of scallions. You can harvest some if you want, but eventually, in the spring, and it's whenever the onions decide it's spring, no set
Mhm.
date. Those tops are going to fall over, and then it's going to store the energy from those greens into that bulb. And so that's really when you want to harvest. When you see those tops wither up and fall over, they're going to turn brown. It's going to look like it's dying. That's when, once they've hit the ground, then it's time to start pulling onions. And I mean, you can really leave them in the ground for, a couple weeks after they've started to fall. And they're still going to be good. That's a good way to, store them at first if you don't have a place set
Huh.
up to cure them. Um, but it's pretty easy to cure them. You can see this bed needs to be weeded, but I actually weeded this after I took the video. And I mean, and again, it took me like 20 minutes. That's some sorghum that's resprouting there from the cover crops. This is a good shot. You can see how it's laid out here. This is the
Yeah.
other bed, but it's
Okay.
3 rows. And this one, I think this one's got the white down the center and the back. Um, and then I think I did actually do three. do white, white, white across some because I realized that we use a lot more white onions than we use red onions. Like I probably use a white onion in every meal, but
Okay.
and that's the big thing, you know. We planted 60 and there's two of us in our house. We'll probably harvest in like April and then I suspect they'll last us to like July or August, which is great, you know, three
Sure.
months of onions, but then you got to go to the rest of the year and or uh, so every year we try to do a few more. I was aiming for 150 this year, but just didn't have the space really.
So because of how you purchased them, succession planting was kind of out of the question, right?
Yeah, and there's really no need to succession plant with the onions because once you harvest them, you want to put them in a well ventilated, you know, uh, wire rack that's not too hot, you know, not in direct sun. And then they'll last, I mean, for at least a year.
Wow. Okay.
So you could harvest them all at once. You know, if you grew enough for a year, you could harvest them all at one time and they would last the whole year.
With some nasturtium?
It is a nasturtium, yeah. And this is one of the plants that I really like growing around the onions. If y'all aren't familiar with nasturtium, the leaves are edible, the flowers are edible. The leaves to me taste
Very spicy.
like, yeah, a little spicy, like spicy green apple peels.
Mm,
That's the vibe that I get. It's got a little bit of like that, like tartness.
yeah,
Uh,
I like them.
Yeah, I love it. And they vine. And so, you know, they're not real aggressive, but they'll just creep through the onions. You know, they'll cover the soil, they'll bring in, I mean, insects, and they're also a crop that can be harvested. But this one was growing before I even made the bed. And so it just stayed.
Is it a
There was
volunteer? Did you buy a nasturtium or is it a seed?
it's a it's a volunteer from a nasturtium that I planted last year. I planted one seed, well, probably a couple more than one, but I had one, actually, I guess I had like three good nasturtiums take in that other field last year, and they made so many seeds. When I made the onion beds, I I mean killed so many nasturtiums, but they were just, you know, they're in the way.
Yeah.
So, but that one got to stay.
I haven't
So
had
it get
luck with the, not to get off topic, but
yeah.
haven't had luck with the nasturtium seeds because it's like a little pebble almost. You kind of have to, I don't know if you need to soak it for a period of time or just see direct sow and what's your experience, Sam?
Um, direct sowing's been pretty easy. You got to keep it wet. They
Yeah.
don't like heat. You know, it's a winter
Okay.
flower. You know, it's something to plant in like October maybe.
Okay.
Um, and then, you know, soaking it probably does help in the beginning. I would soak it in some EM or some worm like vermicast extract,
Okay.
then they'll be germinating. But
Okay.
when you just leave them buried in the mulch in the fields, surrounded by everything else, you know, they do seem to pop up pretty easy.
Oh, okay.
Here's me getting off topic here, just filming other things.
It's all right.
But yeah, so I think we've covered most of the you know, tips on onions. We've talked a little bit about spacing, 6 to 12 inches. I went very generous on my spacing because I'm doing the lettuce in between because I want, you know, other things growing there. But giving them enough space is very important. Um, we talked about the varieties here. Oh, a point on that. So when you're choosing your onions, there's a lot of different onion varieties, but one of the main things is that some varieties are going to be short day onions, and some varieties are going to be long day onions. And that just determines what time of year they can grow. Short day onions are okay with less daylight hours, and they're going to go dormant over the summer. That is what we need to grow here in Central Florida, or
Hmm.
really, I think all of the state. Um, it's too hot in the summers, and I think we have too many, the the pests are a lot more active that time of year. So I don't know anybody who grows onions summertime uh here in the southeast, but
Well,
if you're growing short
I
day,
can show you a video of mine that we're growing in July.
oh yeah. Well, yeah, and that may have been a reason why they didn't form bulbs.
I definitely harvested them too soon, but I do want to show how stupid how I had mine set up because when I first started my food forest, I had garden beds that were designed out of, well, the borders were these cinder blocks. And so some of them had turnips and some of them had the onions here. And so, is this a video? It is
Nice.
a video.
I don't know if I would ever recommend this. It doesn't leave a ton of space for the bulb to form.
Some of them looks like there's even several in one block.
Yeah, there's definitely like three in that one. That
Yeah.
one ain't making no onions, but it does make green onions. And the greens are totally edible. That's the scallions that people buy.
Hmm.
And so, and it keeps pests away. So, doing onions in the borders of your beds, I think is a really good idea. Just not a really great way to like grow bulbed onions. Uh, but
Yeah,
but
maybe like a small Vidalia onion or something, but
yeah,
yeah.
I've seen there's like some Florida heirloom. I think they're called like Finleys. They're real small, like shallots. But yeah, there's a lot of different varieties of onions. Y'all experiment because everything's possible if you're willing to put enough energy into it.
Yeah, I mean, I was growing onions in July. Whether they would have been solid, edible, healthy, tasty onions
Do
is
you
a
know
different
what kind of
story.
onions they were?
I could probably pull out the seed packets, but I think it was just like, at the time it was Home Depot or Lowe's I was sourcing my
Oh,
onions from.
okay.
So it was probably like
It was like
best
onions.
yellow onions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
No, yeah, getting
and we
your
used to get the
seeds
free
or
seed
your
packet from Rob Greenfield when he was doing the free seed packets.
oh,
And
okay.
so, like you said, there was onions, there was arugula, there wasn't a specific
Yeah.
variety, at least anyway. But
No, but yeah, I mean, sourcing for the right varieties, especially essentially getting short day onions. And if you're gonna do garlic, I didn't plant garlic this year, but maybe we'll make a video on that someday. You have to plant soft neck garlic in Florida. Don't ever try to plant anything else. You know, if you can do that, it's gonna give you a leg up. As long as you're planting the right thing, then even if you make some mistakes while planting or while taking care of them, they're still going to have a chance.
interesting. All right, hey, I've learned a ton about onions today, mainly that I picked the opposite time to try and grow them.
Florida's a weird place. If any
Yeah,
of y'all out there growing onions this year or this winter into next year, let us know down in the comments. I want to know what varieties other people are growing around here. What's been successful for you, and what's your favorite recipe to throw onions in. Mine is every single recipe ever.
Awesome. Sam, if somebody wants to learn more from you or hire you to go to their property and do a consultation and educate them about onions amongst other things, how do they find you?
Yeah, if you'd like a property consultation, garden consultation, you can reach out to Central Florida Abundance. Easiest way is through Facebook or Instagram, but my email is also listed on there, so you can send me a message. Um, I offer maintenance, installation, is along with the consulting services. And then if you're looking to buy produce, our season's almost done, but at igofarm.com, we're selling all the produce, well, that that you saw in this video, along with some more on the other side of the yard. Um, and we'd love to have you over. Come over to the farm and pick up your box.
Awesome. And you can follow me at Mike's in the Garden, oversized logo shirt here. And, we're everywhere, baby. We're on the Instas, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, Rumble. I gotta stay a little more active on there, but um, nonetheless, check us out. Give us a follow, a subscribe, a like, a heart, a comment. Do all those things. I think we're going to do a heat check next episode and give away a shirt at the end and see who's paying attention. They can get
If you
themselves
made
a
it to
free
the end of the
shirt.
video, that means you got a heads up.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this, then the next episode that drops next week, you got to get to the end as well. Let us, and we'll give you proper instructions then. But if you want to get yourself some gardening t-shirts, some funny dad joke pun, there's definitely a couple inappropriate ones. I have to make sure there's at least a few. Um, you can head over here to the Etsy shop and get yourself some sweet gear.